Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating story about cause and effect, specifically how kindness actually travels through a community. We always hear that phrase, kindness matters, right? Well, today, we're going to map out exactly how one person's actions can literally create an unstoppable wave of goodwill.
It brings us to a pretty big question. Can one single good deed actually change a whole village? I want you to just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this today. Because we aren't just looking at some sweet, feel-good story here. We're actually analyzing a behavioral loop. We want to see how small, seemingly isolated events connect to completely transform a community.
Okay, so let's jump right in and introduce our catalyst for all of this. Meet Emma. Now, in her small village, Emma wasn't just, another resident. She had practically built her entire identity around being the village helper. She was famously known throughout her community for her constant, unwavering willingness to help literally anyone around her. And the thing is, she didn't wait to be asked. She proactively looked for opportunities to be of service.
And man, it's wild how fast those opportunities can present themselves. What's absolutely remarkable about this source material is the sheer compression of time. We're not talking about events spread out over months or years. Check this out. On a sunny morning, Emma encounters a struggling old woman. Later that exact same day, she rescues a puppy. And then by the very next morning, a massive storm hits the village. Going from helping with groceries to surviving a natural disaster in basically 24 hours is a huge escalation. But Emma's actions compound over this incredibly short period, setting up a rapid sequence of events.
So let's zoom in on that first event. Emma is just walking to school when she hears a voice saying, "Oh dear, this basket is so heavy, I don't know how I'll get home." The words are coming from an old woman struggling right by the side of the road. Emma, she doesn't even hesitate. She steps right in, takes the heavy basket, and carries the whole thing all the way to the woman's house. In return, the old woman praises her kind heart. It's a super simple interaction, but it powerfully establishes this baseline of trust and gratitude.
Fast forward to later that same afternoon. Emma's journey continues, but the stakes, well, they subtly shift. She hears a cry coming from a muddy ditch. It turns out to be a distressed little puppy, completely stuck in the mud. Now, carrying a basket is one thing, right? But jumping into a muddy ditch requires a whole different level of commitment. Still, Emma immediately jumps right in to help, pulling the puppy out and cleaning its muddy fur.
If we take a step back and map out the specific deposits of kindness Emma's making on this single day, a really clear pattern emerges. For the old woman, the action was carrying the basket, which resulted in gratitude. For the trapped puppy, the action was pulling it out of the mud, which resulted in a loyal companion. Emma is actively building social capital and goodwill. She's investing in her surroundings without expecting absolutely anything in return. But she does get an immediate return on that second investment, and it's captured perfectly by a really simple sound. Woof, woof. When Emma first heard that sound, it was a desperate cry for help from a trapped animal. But the second that puppy is clean, that exact same sound transforms into this expression of happy gratitude. The puppy enthusiastically wags its tail and just starts following Emma home. The whole dynamic has entirely shifted from crisis to connection. Now let's see how all of this builds, because the environment is about to rigorously test these new connections. The very next morning, that nice sunny weather completely vanishes. A massive, dramatic storm hits the village. We're talking heavy rain pouring down, rapidly flooding the local roads and swelling the nearby river. The peaceful little village is suddenly thrown into absolute chaos and danger. As Emma steps out to try and navigate this newly flooded landscape, she slips near the rushing river. And suddenly, she is in grave danger. The girl who spends literally all her time helping everyone else is now the one desperately crying out, "Help! Help!" Okay, let's mechanically unpack exactly how her earlier actions dictate what happens next. It's fascinating. The very puppy she rescued the day before actually becomes her alarm system, barking loudly over the roar of the storm. The villagers hear this urgent alarm, and because it's Emma, the beloved village helper, they don't hesitate for a single second. They rush in to physically pull her to safety. Her rescue wasn't just some stroke of random luck. It was a direct, traceable result of her saving that puppy, which in turn alerted the community. You can just feel the urgency in the community's response here. When a villager shouts, "Quick! Emma is in danger," it isn't just about some random person falling into a river. It's about Emma falling in. The community that she has spent her entire life supporting coordinates instantly to pull her out, effectively completing the loop of her initial good deeds. In the immediate aftermath, as the storm is still raging but the immediate danger has subsided, a few key things happen.
Emma, who was soaking wet but finally safe, expresses her deep gratitude to the villagers. But then, the old woman, the exact same woman whose basket she carried just the morning before, arrives at the scene. And it's in this precise moment that Emma has a profound realization. She sees clearly that her good deeds hadn't just disappeared into the void, they had returned exactly when she needed them most.
And this crucial point is captured so perfectly by the old woman, who looks at her and says, "Kindness always comes back to us, Emma." This interaction beautifully cements the cause and effect we've been tracking today. It isn't magic, right? It's a reciprocal social system. You put good in, you strengthen the community, and that strengthened community is right there to catch you when you fall.
And the macro result of this whole realization is just stunning. Think about it. Before this storm, Emma was acting largely alone, serving as the solitary beacon of help for individuals like the old woman or the puppy. But after this dramatic rescue, the entire village witnessed the power of this reciprocal system firsthand. From that day on, the entire village actually changed their behavior. They became kinder to one another, essentially scaling Emma's individual actions across the entire population.
Which brings us right to the core concept of this whole story, the kindness loop. It is the very real, observable lesson that when you help others, kindness inevitably finds its way back to you. It's not just a fairy tale concept, it's honestly how human networks actually thrive. Every single time you offer assistance, you are reinforcing a network that you yourself are a part of. So, as we wrap up the explainer for today, I want to turn it back over to you with a final thought. We've seen how carrying a basket and pulling a puppy from the mud ultimately saved a life and transformed an entire village. The loop is real. The mechanics work. So my question to you is, what loop are you starting today, and how will kindness find its way back to you? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Catch you next time.